All right. Good morning, Emily. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you both?
Very good. Really good. So just to give our audience some background, this is our first chapter of Tuesday Talks, and this is a series of talks we will be releasing every Tuesday with friends and leaders that we like and that we admire from our community and from other communities in a way to try to share some tips or even just stories about your life, your routine, business leadership, and how we all are approaching this crisis.
We are Juan and Nico. We're the co-founders of Waku. It's a plant-based tonic. And today our guest is our friend Emily Kanter. She is the second generation co-owner of Cambridge Naturals, a natural product retail business founded by her parents, Michael and Elizabeth, in 1974. Emily has a background in sustainable food systems, business management, community engagement, marketing, and design, and brings that expertise to her new role at Cambridge Naturals. Emily is passionate about creating strong local food systems that benefit the entire community. Welcome, Emily.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Well, we said a lot of things about you, Emily. And, I think one of the things that I've been wanting to ask you is, how are you interacting with both of your parents throughout this crisis and your family as a whole? I think you run a family business. How often do you meet? How much do you discuss with them? Are you separated or are you really with them throughout the process?
So physically, we've been separated for at least 3 weeks at this point. My parents are both 69, so they're in that age bracket that is concerning, and so they've done a good job of socially isolating for several weeks now. And so it's been really hard because I haven't physically, I've seen them from a distance. We've actually kind of like ended up in the same space and just wave at each other. My mom's tried to come in the business. She's tried to walk in the store several times. We're like, no, you're not allowed. But we've been in contact, every single day, probably 5 or 6 times a day on the phone, just troubleshooting each next challenge as it comes. And Caleb and I always seek them out for their advice and guidance, even though they're not as involved in the day-to-day running of the store and haven't been for a while. They still have a lot of insight and understanding of our systems that we need to tap into, and so we talk to them several times a day, and then of course Caleb and I live together and work together, and that's also nothing new, but we're in constant communication about the store and its needs.
That's good. And how are they doing? How are your parents doing?
They're okay. Emotionally, I think it's been just as challenging for them as it has been for all of us, for everyone going through this crisis. And I think in part they're having to be isolated as older people for so long has been really challenging because they like to be, in it, solving problems. My mom has offered like, oh, I can come in and work the register. No, you can't. But they want to help in any way they can. And so I think having to be stepping back and, being so physically removed from it has been really emotionally challenging for them both.
Michael, that I know him quite well. He loves to be with people and he loves to talk and he loves to be just engaging there. So yeah, I bet it's tough for them.
Yeah, he's definitely an extrovert and gets his energy from people, and so being isolated has been, I think, really tough for him especially.
One of the rocks for me has been my dad throughout this process, and I was wondering if it's just my parents, who I think, since they are older, they're about 60. They have been through so many ups and downs throughout their lives that they are way more relaxed, quote unquote, than us.
Right.
You guys felt the same way about your parents, or not really?
Yes and no. in some levels, absolutely. I mean, I think my parents and Caleb's parents have a perspective that we don't have from having lived through several major world events as adults, or as conscious beings. So the Vietnam War and several U.S. recessions, and even September 11th, which I was I think 15 or 16 when that happened, and so I was aware but not totally tuned into all the various things that were happening, and in a way that my parents and Caleb's parents were. So they've been through several crises before and have experienced all the stages of those crises. And the difference is, I think this is something that none of us have ever seen before. Nobody living, except maybe somebody who was alive during the Spanish flu, but even that, like, they probably would have been 1 or 2 years old. So I don't think anyone who's alive now has lived through something quite like this. So we're all taking it day by day, but certainly their wisdom has been really comforting to Caleb and I.
I think that there has been a lot of support. Moreover, in the days when I feel like super overwhelmed and like saying like, oh my God, shit is going really bad. Calling them and like saying like, yeah, every like just hearing them saying, yeah,
yeah.
Take it day by day. It's just focusing what we can focus right now, and gives me a lot of ease.
I mean, I think also both of our sets of parents were raised by their parents who grew up in the Depression. And so our parents, even though they grew up in more boom times, are, aware of what their parents' experience was, and things like austerity, spending less, being really thoughtful with money, being really scrappy, are nothing new to our parents. And certainly Caleb and I went through that with the recession in 2008, but this is a whole nother level. And so trying to understand and grapple with, well, what if this is all the money we have for X period of time? How are we going to make this work? And they've given us, I think, some level of comfort, and like, we can do a lot with a lot less, and we can be scrappy, and we don't have to spend money on certain things that we think are essential or maybe not essential. And so even that perspective has been helpful, of like, the most important thing is that we're healthy and alive, and everything else, we can take it day by day.
Yeah, that's interesting. After all these crises started, I decided to start reading about Stoic philosophy, and I'm reading a book that is called The Obstacle is the Way from Ryan Holiday. And one of the things that he mentions is it's all about perception, right? Mm-hmm. And how do you face these adversities that can actually become blessings, quote unquote, and it can be a strength in your personal life and in your business. And we have tried to approach this situation with Waku in that way, saying like, okay, this will help us focus in the really right thing. Right. So there's a lot of noise when you're trying to grow a business, and sometimes you are pursuing too many things. This is helping us to really focus on the core, and from that core, expand afterwards.
But to be honest, it's like whenever we are in these good days, as we were saying, whenever you are feeling like a bit more with clarity, and you say, okay, I got this, we're going to have this as an opportunity. It's kind of easier in those days, but then it's like we're feeling that's a roller coaster. There are like days that we feel like, okay, we got it. And then other days like, oh my God, it's...
Yeah, totally. I can resonate with that. And actually, Caleb's also reading a book on Stoic philosophy, which he left for me last night and told me I should read. So maybe I really should pick it up.
It's incredible. And the examples that they give you of Marcus Aurelius and others that have really lived with this philosophy, you understand how much shit happened throughout their lives and their organizations whenever they were living. And getting into a bit more into the business aspect of the conversation, Emily, what, even more than business leadership, what has been the most important lesson learned for you throughout this past month? Or maybe a few.
Wow. Well, many lessons. I think, so not being afraid to do tough things, because ultimately you need to do them, and once you're through them, it's going to be a lot less painful than the process that you're going through to finally make the decision. Certainly some of the decisions we've had to make as a business are incredibly painful, things that we never ever once thought that we would have to do. My dad, so our business through the 2008, 7, 8, 9 recession, actually did pretty well, considering, a lot of companies were going out of business. A lot of people were laying off. A lot of companies were laying off workers. And my dad always talks about, how we increased our marketing, we increased our team, and we, were able to thrive through the recession. And that's because we kind of doubled down on our business's core values. And we really tried to do that this time. But when you're facing, deep, deep revenue losses, it's incredibly challenging. And as a small business, you don't have buckets of cash lying around. You can just keep people on payroll indefinitely. And so we've had to make some incredibly heartbreaking decisions as a business that I never thought we would have to face. I thought, okay, this coronavirus thing is a big deal and we're certainly paying attention to it. Certainly people are going to want immune support. So let's order up on immune support, and let's be really thoughtful about the types of groceries that people might want to buy. And I thought that would sort of carry us through. I don't think anybody quite anticipated the impact that it's had on brick and mortar retail and just business in general, as widespread layoffs have occurred, if people have started washing their money, et cetera, et cetera. So we've had to face these enormous challenges, and it's caused me great pain to have to go through them. But once I'm on the other side, it's like, okay, we had to do that. There was no other viable choice. Time to move on, time to move forward, time to be working on the next thing, and not getting stuck and mired in my own, sort of like grief and shame, but recognizing that we're all in this terrible situation, and nobody would want these things, but we have to move through them. We have to be ready for the next challenge. So that's something that I've been really focusing on, is not, kind of spiraling in my own grief and my own sadness, my own shame, but moving through that and saying, okay, well, how can I keep this going? Because there's still a lot of people we need to provide for.
That resonates with me a lot. It's exactly what you said. After taking these really tough calls that we also in Waku, we of course were smaller and than Cambridge Natural, but we also had to do a lot of difficult decisions. And at the beginning, I think I was being too hard on myself as well, because I think that the first feeling that I had was like kind of like I failed my team as a leader. I was not able to do enough to protect their jobs and to protect the well-being of the company. But I think that also after taking these really hard decisions, we felt that kind of moving past that decision that kind of unblocked us.
Yeah.
We got to a point where we were like, we were trying to, of course, every day it's like the strategies are changing, and we had a strategy.
Right.
Scratch that, new strategy. That's kind of like every day.
Yeah.
We had like 3 different strategies that we tried to do before taking hard decisions, and we got to a point where we were like, there's nothing much else we can do. The business was so disrupted, and we were out of ideas. At one point, we were out of ideas. We felt blocked, and I felt that after taking those hard decisions, something unblocked in my brain, and I was like, as you said, okay, let's move past this. And then creativity started to go back again, and you have a bit more vision to start to focus in where can be other opportunities, and how can you be thriving after you do these tough calls.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we have to think of this as like an unexpected tornado just came and demolished our businesses, and we have to work with what's left. Like, nobody anticipated that a virus was going to be, maybe somebody anticipated, but none of us anticipated that a virus was going to be the thing to take our business down. Maybe natural disasters or even an economic recession, but there's sort of a playbook for what you do with those things. There's no playbook for this, but we have to kind of act like this has been a major natural disaster and completely outside of our control, and no amount of business planning, and strategy could have prepared us for what you do. And I think that's right. Like, we've spent hours working beautiful scenarios for like what we thought was going to happen. And then literally like the next day, that strategy makes no sense whatsoever. And so yeah, kind of recognizing that it has nothing to do with how smart you are or how thoughtful you are or how much you care about your business and your people. This is just completely out of our control.
Emily, you mentioned that during the financial crisis in 2008, your parents did very well by doubling down in their core business values. While you were making these tough decisions, did you refer back to your core values, to your principles as a business and as a leader? How was that interaction between the tough decision and the core values of the business?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even in making the most difficult decisions, like, we initially had to furlough almost half of our team, and that decision, so a furlough is a temporary layoff, but the idea is that you are able to rehire those people very easily, and that's always been our goal. We want that team back up and running as soon as possible. But we made that decision, and when we finally, were very decisive in it, because we said, well, if people can apply for unemployment immediately and additional government support is coming, then they'll have money that we won't be able to give them. And if we linger for too long, we're just messing with their livelihoods. And actually some of our team had reached out and said, I anticipate that you might be thinking about furlough or layoffs. Could you let me know sooner than later? Because I heard like the unemployment website's pretty bogged down. And we recognize that by sort of like wallowing in our own anxiety and not making that decision, we were actually preventing people from moving forward with their own lives. So recognizing that our team matters to us, whether or not they're currently working in the store or not, and making sure that we're supporting them and that we're being transparent with them. We've also, doubled down on our transparency with what we're doing as a business and communicating that to our customers. So we've been incredibly upfront about all the difficult decisions that we've had to make. And our customers have really responded to that. Certainly our sales are still down and the future is uncertain, but the way that people have shown up for us, the way our customers have shown up for us is just incredible. The messages of support we've gotten, the people who've bought gift cards, the people who've placed online orders, who've, asked us to put together gift bags for them, and have like communicated over the phone how much they care about us and support us and are ready to walk in the door as soon as we can open our doors, has been incredibly heartwarming. So kind of doubling down on that transparency around what we're doing and our values has been hugely important to us as a business. And that respect for our employees, the respect for our customers, and also putting health and wellness at the forefront of everything we do. So even decisions like this weekend, we closed our Porter Square store because someone who works for us has been in contact with someone who has symptoms similar to COVID-19. So we don't know if that person that they're in contact with has COVID-19, but they have symptoms. Our employee has no symptoms, but has been in contact with that person. And we didn't feel that it was a good idea for us to continue keeping Porter Square open and letting everyone else kind of circulate around and potentially infect each other. Like, we have no idea if this is actually going to happen, but it was us putting their health and wellness at the forefront and saying, no business is more important than people's lives. And we're not, willing to risk people's lives just to try to keep this going a few days. So we shut down Porter Square. That's going to be a devastating loss of income to us. We're really fortunate to have another location where that team has been completely separated and is able to keep running, keep doing phone orders, keep doing online orders. And maybe at some point in the near future, we can reopen Porter Square once, we have a better sense of the situation. But we're a health and wellness business. If we say, too bad, come to work, then what kind of health and wellness business are we? So that's been part of our decision making for sure.
That's amazing, and that leads me to another question that we have. It's like, after taking all these tough decisions, as closing the iconic Porter Square, Cambridge Naturals, and having to let go temporarily some part of the team, for the rest of the team that's staying and that's working, what are you doing to keep them motivated and keep them morale up? Because I know that's tough as leaders, that sometimes we can also feel super low, but it's super important at these moments to just keep everybody up and trying to do as much as we can. So I was really curious to know what practices are you implementing with the team.
Yeah, so a lot of it's just been, because we don't have a lot of cash to work with, so we haven't, been able to raise anybody's wages. But my husband and I and my parents have stopped taking salaries, so our team is aware that we're still in it with them, but we're foregoing our own financial reward at the moment in order to keep everyone who is currently employed. We've done things like I've been showing up almost every single day and working the phones with everybody, even in the midst of trying to do 8 million other things, like apply for loans and figure out strategic decisions and take care of paperwork and all that kind of stuff. Just been showing up and working the phones with our team so that they see that, ownership isn't like, good luck to you, figure this out, we'll be over here. And then we've done little things like providing a free drink to each employee for each shift. Hopefully they're drinking lots of Waku. But that's been one way for us to just help them stay refreshed throughout their shifts. So little things like that, I think they recognize that we're in an incredibly tough spot and we're sort of doing everything we can. And again, also being very transparent with them as we make decisions. And I've seen some businesses sort of falter when they have not communicated upfront with their employees and employees find out a few days later. So for example, when we found out that this employee's the person that this employee was in contact with who has the symptoms related to COVID-19, when we found that out, it was within minutes, maybe 30 minutes to an hour, that we had informed everyone who worked with that person and gave them the option of whether or not they wanted to come in the next day while we sorted out the rest of the orders and receiving. And we did that because we've heard, not just because, but we've heard of other businesses like Amazon, somebody would call out and get tested and have COVID-19, and Amazon wouldn't tell the rest of the employees who worked with that employee for 3 or 4 days. Wow. How awful is that? You're dealing with individuals' health and well-being. How could you not at least communicate the potential risk that they're under and give them the option of whether or not they want to come to work? So we've tried to be as upfront and transparent and timely with our communication as possible.
Nice. I know we booked you till 9. Can we go just 5 minutes more?
Absolutely.
Okay.
For you guys, anything.
Thank you. One of my friends sent me a note these days about some techniques the CEO of Novartis recommends or uses on how to lead the team through crisis. And one thing that stuck to me from that text was that first and foremost, you have to lead yourself in order to lead your team while we are on crisis. And I'm curious if you have either adjusted your routine, add something, removed something from your routine in order for you to stay sane, positive, and optimistic.
Yeah, well, not as much as I should be, but I have been doing a lot of breathing exercises. So Caleb and I have gotten really into, I don't know if you're familiar with Wim Hof, the Iceman.
Yeah.
So we learned about Wim Hof. What?
Are you getting into cold showers?
I sure am. Yeah, I'm up to 2 minutes. Yeah, so we learned about Wim Hof, I think, like a couple months ago. I think I read an article about him. And then he was featured on that Goop Netflix show. And then I watched this Vice thing with him. And I'm not someone who like goes for like gurus or sort of like all and everything cures. But I was really fascinated by this, mostly because of his because of the science around it, the scientific studies he's done, and then also just the sense of control that it gives you. And I think one of the biggest lessons for me in this crisis, but just in general in life, is that feeling out of control is like one of my biggest fears. And the thing that causes me the most stress is feeling out of control. So
I am with you.
So this crisis has definitely been a lesson in having control. But using those breathing techniques and then the cold showers as a way to sort of give myself a sense of, if I can get through this 2 minutes of icy cold, I can probably get through a lot. And so doing that has allowed me to then show up for my team, for my business, with a better sense of like personal control and calm that I think I wouldn't otherwise have. So whatever that is for you, whatever, if that's not cold showers and breathing techniques, but something different that allows you to feel centered and grounded, I think the best way you can show up for your team is centered and grounded. I think everyone has emotions, everyone has hard times, and it's very okay, I think, to be vulnerable and show your real self to your team, and at the same time not dumping your emotions on them, not being not making them have to hold you up. And so I've been really conscious of showing up in a, even when I've had a horrible morning, taking my time to show up for the team in a way that supports them. So, and a way that in a way that I'm in control. So I've been working on that a lot.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
One final thought before we close is any advice, Emily, on how us and the rest of the community can support small retail businesses or retail staff? And besides that, where can we buy Cambridge Naturals products online? Let us know.
All right. Well, for one thing, you guys already do a terrific job of supporting small businesses, and it means so much to us when brands do things like offer giveaways or offer free product for events, or help shout us out on social media and direct people to our stores. Right now, of course, we're only doing phone orders and online orders. but you can give us a call at our Boston Landing store, 617-208-8881. And when we open at Porter Square, it's 617-492-4452. And then we also have partnered with a local online delivery service called Mercado. And so we can deliver products basically to anywhere within a 10-mile radius of our Boston Landing store. So you can absolutely order online with us for the time being. We're also working on getting another website up and running for shipping products. So if you don't live in the area and you want us to ship you a care package, say to you or your friend or your mother or someone you know who works in healthcare, we've had a lot of people buying gift bags for people who work in hospitals. And of course, if you would like to, you can order a gift card online from us, and that will be great to use in the store as soon as we're able to open our doors to the public. So
amazing.
That's awesome. We will bring some cases of Waku to the Boston Landing team so they can be refreshed.
Yes, they would love that.
You are doing an incredible job, Emily, as a human being and as a leader. So keep at it. And say hi from our part to Caleb and your parents, please.
Absolutely.
The whole Naturals team. They're doing a terrific job right now.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for taking the time to chat with us, and have a wonderful Friday.
Thank you. You guys too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Emily.
Bye.